Reduce with variables. When reducing fractions with variables, we're going to divide out the common variables. And when there are exponents, it may help to expand them. Example 1. So we're going to reduce this fraction. So we'll see how this works. So we have 6 m to the 4th n squared o, and then we have 10 m squared n. So we're going to divide out the common factors. So let's go ahead and do that. So we see we have 6, right, which can be broken down into 2 times 3, right? 6 can just go down like that. 10, right, is just 2 and 5. Then we have m to the 4th. Really, right, this exponent is telling us we have 4 copies of m. So let's just go ahead and write the 4 copies of m out. Then we have 2 copies of n and 1 o. Then on the bottom, we have 2 m's, right, because it's m squared, so we have 2 copies of n and just 1 n. Now we're going to go ahead and just divide out our common factors from the top and the bottom. So let's start with the numbers. Notice we have a 2 here and a 2 here, so we'll cross those out because that will just equal 1. But we can just leave it as is like that. Now we can cross out 2 m's because we have it 2 m's on the top and 2 m's on the bottom. So they just divide out, right? Because, right, m over m is just equal to 1. And anytime you multiply 1 by a fraction or anything like that, it's just equal to itself. So we're done with that, with the m's. Then we notice we have 1n on the top and the bottom. So we're just going to cross those out. So what are we left with? Well, we're left with 3, 2 m's, an n and an o, and then a 5 on the bottom. So let's go ahead and write that out now. So we have 3. Now we're going to put this back into our exponent. So we're going to go m squared, because we have 2 copies of m. Then we have n, o. Then on the bottom, we just have 5. And then we're done. And that's how we reduce this fraction with variables. So let's look at one more example. Example 2, we're going to reduce this fraction. So we have 54 a squared bc. Then on the bottom we have 9 a squared b squared c. So let's go ahead and start finding all these factors. So let's go with 54 first. So 54, if we were to go 2, well, 25 times 2 is 50. So if we just go 27, right, just 2 more, so like 2 times 27, then that would give us 54. So you can kind of see how I went with that. I knew that 2 times 25 is 50. I know there's 4 more on top of 50, so if you go 4 divided by 2, we add 2 to each 25, and we get 27. Now 27 could be broken down into 3 and 9, and then 3 and 3. Now 9 could just be broken down into 3 and 3. So we found the factors of all the numbers. And so let's go ahead and write that all out now. So we have 2 times 3 times 3 times 3. Then let's look at the r variables. We have 2 a's, right? A squared means we have 2 copies of a. B times c. All over 3 times 3, right? We're going to take the factors of 9. And then we have 2 a's. We have 2 b's, because it's b squared, and just 1 c. Because, right, anytime you see just c by itself or b by itself, any variable, it really means there's a 1 there as an exponent. So it's just understood there's only 1 copy of it. So now let's go ahead and divide out our common factors. So let's start with the numbers. So we have 2 3's on the top We have 2 3s on the bottom. So we're left with 2 and 3 on the top, and then no numbers on the bottom. Now let's move on to our variables. So notice we have 2 A's on the top and 2 A's on the bottom. So those just cross out, just like that. Notice then when we move on to the B's, we only have 1 B on the top, so we can only cross out 1 B on the bottom. Then we can cross out the C on the top and the C on the bottom. And so notice that we're left with the only variable which is on the bottom, which is B. So let's go ahead and write this out now. So on the top we have 2 times 3, right, because we're multiplying all these. Anytime you see this, it means we're multiplying 2 times 3 times 3 times 3, right? So we got 2 times 3, so that's just 6. And then on the bottom we have B. And then we're done.